Today's Total Soccer Show is sponsored by Health IQ, an insurance company that helps health-conscious people get lower rates on their life insurance. To see if you qualify, get your free quote today at healthiq.com/TSS. Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who knows the offside law. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. That's a bold statement to begin the show.
Well, you know it better than some people. Let's put it that way.
Some people who are paid to discuss it live on air.
I'm not naming any names until about 2 minutes from now when I will definitely name some names.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So welcome to our weekend review. Thumbs up. Thumbs down, Total Soccer Show. It's kind of if you've never heard it before, it's a quick look back at the weekend, all the action we took in. We'll give you our quick review of it. Of course, front of mind is Liverpool 2, Tottenham 2, because what a game. I'm going to officially refer to that as the big game of Sunday.
I think you might get in trouble for that, but sure, why not? The unofficial branding for the weekend. That works.
And the big incident in Liverpool 2, Tottenham 2, was weirdly, a goal that didn't happen. It seemed to me the most talked about.
I would say the incidents. There were two big incidents.
Okay, so both of the big things are the penalty kicks, right? The one that Harry Kane missed, and then the one that he scored. So I really want to start there before we get into any other stuff in this game.
Sure.
So have you got any thumbs up, thumbs down related to those, or do you want me to take it?
Well, yeah, I'll say thumbs up to Harry Kane's internal sense of guilt, because
I've got thumbs up to Harry Kane's conscience.
Yeah, I think that's what happens.
His own personal Jiminy Cricket.
It's essentially, if you didn't see this, the ball is played through to Harry Kane. Talk about how it gets through in a second. He goes around the goalkeeper.
Karius.
Then there's contact. Down goes Harry Kane. You watch it again. On first viewing, I was like, oh, that's definitely a penalty.
Yeah.
It's the familiar symptom of goes around, gets taken out. You watch it again, and he gets taken out because he leaves that foot behind.
There's
the foot behind. Not a lot of other contact.
He leaves the foot behind, and it's not even like he leaves it behind and then it hits Karius' hands. It kind of just like clips, Karius' shoulder clips, right? And you see afterwards, Karius puts his hands to his face like the Munch painting, the Scream. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's looking at it like, oh no. But yeah, so Harry Kane definitely went looking for that penalty.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And so I think then for him to step up and take a horrible penalty straight down the middle, not so good. Not so good.
But part of it is there was a good few minutes between the whistle being blown for the penalty kick and then there was referee John Moss went over to talk to assistant referee Eddie Smart. I wrote their names down. And it really iced Harry Kane, to use an American.
You should get the right assistant referee?
I do. It's Eddie Smart, yeah. Because he was involved in both incidents because they were both in the second half and in that corner, right?
But I think I was watching.
Made Harry Kane think about what he'd done.
Yeah. I was watching at a bar here in Richmond, Penny Lane, which is, not surprisingly, a Liverpool bar. The crowd was not pleased by the decision to award a penalty, especially so because on the replay, it looked as though Harry Kane receives the ball in an offside position.
He does.
He does, except that Dejan Lovren tries to make a play on the ball, makes contact while falling over, and that's the key component there. Because as soon as he makes a play and makes contact, from my understanding, that means he has made a soccer move, since we're preparing for the Super Bowl with a football move. And because of that, it then removes the offside, makes Harry Kane, therefore, onside.
This rule has been on the books since, I believe, the start of the 2016-17 season. So everybody should know about it by now. So I'm going to say thumbs down to the NBC Sports team. Because not only do...
when you say everybody, though, the only thing I find myself wondering is that, like, if you even when you play adult league, because there's the other rule that has changed where it used to be if the player's offside, they're offside, flag goes up. Now it's flag doesn't go up until the offside player touches the ball.
Yes.
So if they get the ball 30 yards down the field, that's where the free kick now is. And so many people, even in our league, with people playing the entire season, are still thrown by that and get really mad.
It's worth remembering we spend more time thinking about this stuff than maybe the other people in our league, so that's fair. But the people at NBC Sports can't have the same excuse, right?
They sure can.
And to name names, Peter Drury, who was commentating with Lee Dixon and Graham Lasso, and then also Arlo White, Robbie Earl, Robbie Mustoe in the studio, were all adamant that Harry Kane was offside.
To the point where I think as I was walking out of the bar, I heard Robbie Earl say, he's offside, that's it, done and dusted.
Yes.
Clear cut, no chance, should have been a penalty.
It really concerns me that people whose job it is to explain the game to the United States, because they're on NBC Sports, that they don't know this new rule. One of those 6 guys should have stepped up and said, hey, actually, this is the law.
Yeah, and there's a big difference because I
normally like NBC Sports, Scott. I want to sort of caveat it with that. I really do like NBC Sports broadcast. I'm just very disappointed by what happened today.
And I think that's fair because you don't want to be the person in the bar when all the Liverpool fans are screaming, being like, well, actually, guys, that's not going to go that well.
Were you very careful not to be that guy today?
Well, because I wasn't sure. When I saw it happen, I was sitting with our friend John Tolbert, and we were both like, he touched it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That means, John, to his credit, was like, am I right? That's the rule, right? He was sort of, because the entire room was not agreeing with that sentiment.
Yeah.
And so there is that sort of moment of should I say? And then no, you should not. But that I think makes a little more sense. Whereas if you are Robbie Earle or Robbie Mustoe, where you have an entire platform where you are supposed to educate and enlighten about how the game is played and about the rules of the game, that is where you should be able to remove emotion and say, well, actually, here's the situation.
Yep. The other part of this is on the broadcast, when the camera gets in tight.
I'm also fully aware that every instance of mansplaining begins with, well, actually, so don't do that.
We should come up with a new phrase.
Yes, yeah.
No, we shouldn't, because then we're just hiding the mansplaining.
Yeah, exactly,
right?
yeah.
So the camera goes in tight on Moss and Eddie Smart having that conversation. And it looks to me like Eddie Smart, the assistant referee, the linesman, is essentially reminding John Moss about the new offside law. Right, and he's doing it nice and loud, and the producers turn the volume up on Eddie Smart explaining, and then Peter Drury talks over the top of it.
Yep.
So the audience at home doesn't get to listen to the referee literally explain why the decision is happening, because the commentators, I think it's Drury and Dixon, are both saying, well, was it a penalty? Was it this or that? Just asking the question that is literally being answered on screen if you just be quiet for 20 seconds.
I think you're being more generous to them than you need to be, because as I recall, it was them saying oh, it's got to be a penalty. We're waiting for it's got to be, or it's got to be offside. It's got to be offside. There's no it's repeating. It's almost as though they were terrible debaters, and the way they chose to debate was the other side was making their argument, and they were just talking at the same time. No, it's not. No. Debate one.
We should get off this for a second,
sure.
Right, and talk about the rest of the game. I think we've made very clear why Harry Kane was onside.
Yep.
But probably should not have been awarded a penalty anyway. So in many ways, justice is done. Yeah, ball don't lie and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. Then we move on to the second one, and I would say
the equalizer.
Once again, in my opinion, sorry Liverpool fans, but ball don't lie, because this is one that really does come down to the angle you view it. But essentially, it's kind of like a scrum in the box. Ball pops up. Virgil van Dijk, I think, doesn't get a clean head to it, but heads the ball. It goes up in the air. Then he gets in position to put a volley in to try to clear it. Makes contact with Eric Lamela. Lamela goes down. Referee says play on. Then AR flags wildly.
Eddie Smart running the game from the sidelines. He's the Marcelo of assistant referees, running the game from the flanks.
Well, and I think there was a lot of consternation as to why the referee would stop and go talk to the AR. And the answer is because that's his job.
And
that's why
if you
they're
watch,
there.
It's not like the AR makes the decision 30 seconds later. He's immediately waving that flag frantically.
Because you can see, the referee's name?
John Moss.
John Moss, you can see him say play on, and he starts to run, and as he starts to run away, he turns and looks, and then immediately stops play, goes over, has a word, and you can see them both in their ear, touching their earpieces, which I'm going to assume means they've looped in the other AR and the fourth official.
That's mind meld.
Okay. But I'm assuming part of that is because it's the other AR confirming. I'm hoping that it wasn't Moss saying wait, are you sure? Are you sure that's the rule? I'm hoping it was more of him asking the questions he needed to ask, as a lawyer, to make sure that the case was rock solid before they moved on to trial.
Beyond reasonable doubt.
Are you sure it couldn't have been this? Could it have been that? What about this?
So I feel weird about this because I feel like I've watched this a couple of times. I've watched it more than a couple of times. Virgil van Dijk goes to volley it clear, as you said. When he sees that he's going to strike Eric Lamela, he really pulls out of it, right? Because otherwise it would have been a really cracking volley across Eric Lamela.
I would disagree with that, but
you,
sure.
You disagree that he pulls out?
Yes. I think what happens is, because we've seen this before, and people, if you're new to soccer, or you haven't seen an instance like this. This happened to Arsenal earlier in the season, but if you're a defender, this happened to me once in a game. If you're the defender or the goalkeeper, and you go to clear the ball, and you get the player first, if a player comes charging in, you hit that player, it's going to be a penalty because you've made contact. And what I saw, there are multiple different camera angles. Some make it look worse, but I saw Van Dijk make contact, and as soon as he feels that contact, that's when he pulls away.
Okay.
So he definitely doesn't swing through and destroy Lamela, but
Yeah.
I think he recognizes it's not like, I'm trying to stop and I accidentally touched him. It's, I'm swinging, there's a leg there, I'm going to pull my leg back now.
So the weird thing for me is there's an angle, there should two angles on the replay.
So that's what I saw. I don't know, that might Not
No,
mine?
I think we just had different definitions of what pulling out
Gotcha,
means.
okay.
I mean, he pulled out but still made contact, if that makes sense.
Gonna go ahead and put the explicit tag on this.
My,
but sure.
no. From my perspective,
Yeah.
there are two angles. One angle, he definitely doesn't touch him. One angle, he definitely does
insane, right?
kind of jab him in the back of the calf and then sort of pull away. So that should make me think, I'm 50-50 on this, but because one angle shows actual contact,
Yep.
I'm more convinced by that angle, if that makes sense. Which also is closer to Eddie Smart, the AR's angle.
That's the difference,
Yeah.
I think, is that from Moss's angle, it is essentially he can see Virgil van Dijk like bringing the leg up, but then not going all the way through, and then Lamela basically kind of jumps in and then falls out of frame, and so I think he sees that as, oh no, it's clearly a dive, whereas
Lamela does make it look worse than it was.
that is definitely true.
Yes.
But then
Van Dijk's cleats are not that sharp.
no, definitely not.
The front of them are not.
But from Smart's perspective, the angle he's at, he can see that contact go through, and I think
Yeah.
that's why he is adamant it's definitely a penalty.
Got it.
So it is again, it's a weird scenario where Lamela, I wouldn't say he dove, but he definitely embellished.
Okay.
And that still, I guess, is a penalty, but it's also there's reason to
It's a
be
penalty.
angry.
It's a penalty plus shame finger to Lamela.
Little bit, yeah, a little bit.
right? For following Dele Alli's lead.
Like, hasn't there been some speculation? I don't know if this has ever happened before, but like, can't a player draw a penalty but also get a yellow for diving? Like, isn't that a thing that can happen?
It
Like,
definitely should happen for simulation, even though you've been fouled. I
Yeah.
don't think you see it very often. I think maybe referees are just like,
Yeah.
the crowd can't take this.
yeah.
There'd be trouble if we did this.
They can't even like the crowd is fully not. Like, isn't fully understanding the offside law. They're not going to get the idea of things being two things.
I never thought we would open a show debating two penalties. That feels very sort of old school media. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it is like, I think we'll stop here. But I would say that probably should have been a penalty, the second one. And so maybe then ball really, really doesn't lie because ball ends up in the back of the net.
Or as Harry Kane said to camera walking away
Yeah.
after the game, don't give me two chances. I'm
That's-
going to say thumbs up to Harry Kane for having some swagger, mostly because he's going to be my striker going into the World Cup for England.
That's fair. I would just
know what I
say
mean?
like if I've like been given two cars and I wrecked one, I'm not going to be like, that's right, I know how to drive. It's like, well, you still wrecked one. Like, you didn't really convert that first one. Maybe don't boast quite so much.
I'm not sure that's a perfect analogy.
It came to me. It works. It's fine.
There we go.
But yes, as some people on Reddit and elsewhere were pointing out, like, this is all we're going to hear about for the next week, isn't it? And there was, a whole other game going on.
There certainly
that we
was.
should probably discuss.
So let's. I'm going to start with thumbs up to Jurgen Klopp for his midfield selection.
right.
So the reason I think Liverpool started so well and was so dominant for such long periods in this game and made it really hard for Tottenham was his selection of Emre Can, James Milner. James Milner, excuse me, and Jordan Henderson in the central midfield. I think it was Liverpool's sort of toughest, most aggressive midfield. And that they really went after Spurs anytime they tried to play through the middle. They had numbers in there, and they had sort of aggressive numbers in there and made it really difficult. I was really impressed with Jordan Henderson. I actually think the game kind of switched after Henderson went off for whatever reason that he went off.
I agree with that. And you go back to the first few minutes of this game where Tottenham coughed the ball up on a number of occasions. They, I think, tried to take a goal kick short and ended up barely getting another goal kick out of it. It almost turned into a corner.
And you see Hugo Lloris sort of go, we're going to kick it long. That wasn't working.
No more of this. No more of this. But then the goal itself, the opening goal for Liverpool, converted by Mohamed Salah. It's a great finish. But again, it comes about from that kind of frantic pace in the middle. Tottenham reacting to it, and in this case, reacting poorly, and it's a bad back pass that springs Mohamed Salah.
Eric Dyer own assist, right? And it's under pressure from Sadio Mane. Can I give a thumbs up to Sadio Mane?
You sure can.
Not just
You
for
can always give a thumbs up to Sadio Mane.
I mean, you can, and you can do it honestly just by watching a game that he plays in, right? So the original sort of through ball to Salah that gets cut out is a Mane really clever flicked header. Even at the very top level, you see so many headers from attackers that are just hopeful flick-ons. I'll get it as far as I can. Mane's was more of a sort of downwards glance.
It's a directional
through ball. Yeah, it's a very clever header. It just about gets cut out in the British sense, meaning it actually did get cut out, but only just. And then Mane immediately pressures Eric Dyer, which is what forces Dyer into that error to play the ball through for Mohamed Salah.
And I think that is credit to Sadio Mane, but that is just a Liverpool, that is a Klopp team.
Yes.
That it is sort of like, you don't stop and think, oh man, what a great header that was. If only it had gone through. You're just sort of instantly back on your horse trying to make plays, trying to do what you need to do. There's no break. And that leads to a break for Liverpool.
Certainly does. Do we want to talk about Wanyama's goal?
I mean, yes.
For some reason, the thing I want to give a thumbs up to is Joel Matip's reaction.
I was just like, what now, huh?
he looks where the ball went, then he looks back at the direction from where Wanyama hit it in a sort of disbelieving, did that just really happen kind of way.
I'm going to say, first of all, that happens, and it was hilarious. It's a good spot by you. Second, I'm going to say thumbs up to like the modern era we live in, where we have cameras at every angle, so you could see how much that ball moved. It wasn't quite Roberto Carlos' free kick, but it is definitely starts off going about a yard wide, and then just swerves right to that top corner. That is an absolute rocket. And I forget which commentator said it, but the line was like, what, if you had 5 goalkeepers, that's still going in?
Lee Dixon said you could have 5 goalkeepers and that would go in. He also said, so we're giving some positive thoughts to Lee Dixon here. He also called it a perler, which is a thing I heard a lot in England as a phrase for just a strike that was hit really hard.
It's one of those.
And 2 people, you and my wife, have both asked me, because she was watching this sort of in the background, what does he mean by that? What does that mean? And it's one of those things I do not have an answer to. I'm going to go away and research that after we record this.
So you thought it might have something to do with knitting, right?
The only time I've ever heard a perler is knitting, because you sort of, I don't knit, but I've heard the phrase of like drop one, pearl one.
All right.
It's how you weave the material through.
And my assumption was it had something to do with like getting a pearl out of a shell, like a pearl diver or something.
But how does that apply to...
You do it like a rocket.
All right.
Get right down there, get right back up.
If anyone knows, please email us.
It was a beauty?
Or tweet us.
A pearl is a beauty?
That could be true. A rare beauty.
Yeah.
That could be it. A rare beauty. Yes. There we go.
Sure, why not?
A rare organic beauty.
Cue the tweets from people who actually know things.
Yeah. At TBRock00.
Yes. Is that me? Nope. I don't think that's me, but that works fine.
It is. It definitely is.
I have like 3 different ones, I think, for 3 different accounts. So whatever.
Twitter. I'm talking about Twitter.
Oh, yeah. Then that's my Twitter account. Yep. Thank you. Yes. I did want to say, though, final thumbs up for me, at least in this game, to Mohamed Salah again, because not only is that first goal really, really well taken, I think in my mind it stands out even more because Tottenham had 2 or 3 chances similar to that throughout the game. I think Son had 2 of them, and he hit them right into Karius. Karius made good saves, don't get me wrong, but just the kind of poise from Salah to pick that far corner to put it in perfectly, and then obviously his second goal, which I was convinced was going to be the winner, as were most of the people in the bar.
It certainly deserved to be. Can I tell you my favourite thing about it?
You sure can.
Is that I believe he originally tries to cross it, and maybe it hits someone's arm or maybe doesn't, and Salah stands there, appeals for the penalty.
So do 2 other people in Liverpool, and they keep those hands in the air, but he does not.
He doesn't. He very quickly thinks... Everybody's kind of frozen for a second because everyone's like, oh no, what's the ref going to do? He drops his hand, drops his shoulder, gets to dribbling, and he's away, wiggles through, and then has that really nice sort of near-post lift over Lloris to make it 2-1. I just love the idea of stop to appeal, but only for a millisecond, and then get on with it.
Yes.
Yeah. Certain other Everton defenders, who we'll talk about later, could learn from that.
Final thing then, not to... I genuinely don't mean to pour salt in the wounds of Liverpool fans, but I will say maybe it is also time for Mohamed Salah to just calm down a little bit, because if past is precedent, certain Spanish clubs might be looking at Liverpool like, that guy's real good, and we could use some attacking play on the wing, and we wear all white. Let's get Mohamed Salah on board. Which is to say, I don't think Barcelona will come calling.
Well, he's got that World Cup coming as well, right? So he could also... weave some magic there, and suddenly some big teams are interested.
Yes.
Happened with James.
It
happened with
James.
All right, Taylor, we've got plenty more Premier League and other games to talk about. But first, I got a quiz for you. Because today's episode is sponsored by Health IQ, an insurance company that helps health-conscious people like runners, cyclists, weightlifters, and vegetarians get lower rates on their life insurance.
I always really love that description because it feels like having done a little bit of copywriting myself, and I know you still do.
I'll be doing it tonight.
The idea of they've listed all those things, and they're like, but what if this doesn't apply to everybody? Vegetarians. Get vegetarians in there. That way they'll know. Because it's like active, very physical, vegetarians.
And that's what it is, right?
Yep.
If you are healthy, they can get you lower rates on your life insurance. You just have to kind of prove it. And one of the ways you can prove it is if you wear a Fitbit or other device when you run, you can send them your data. So that you can say, look, I did this running. Here's proof that I'm a runner. The other way you can do it to get lower rates is to take some Health IQ quizzes. And I see the look of terror in your eyes, Taylor, because you know I'm going to ask you a Health IQ quiz.
Is this what terror looks like to you?
It is. I admit I haven't seen a lot of terror. So if you go to healthiq.com/TSS, then you can take a quiz. You basically earn points, which sort of proves that you're healthy. I'm going to give you today's quiz, Taylor.
Okay.
It's called Strength, How to Condition Like an NFL Pro.
All right, so I fail.
I mean, so you did play some football, right? Weren't you, from memory, you were briefly a quarterback in Turkey?
Cornerback.
Cornerback? Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was way off.
You did your best, though.
Yeah, and you also were a kicker sometimes in college.
Yeah, sure. That's fair.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
So you're on your way to condition like an NFL pro. Okay, clock's already ticking. Are you ready?
Yeah.
The ability to quickly change direction is important for defensive players, like cornerbacks. What move helps to train for side-to-side motions? Is it kettlebell step-up? I don't know what that is. Kettlebell presses, kettlebell lateral lunge, or single-leg leg press?
I mean, I'm assuming the lateral lunge.
We'll click that. And you are correct. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, next one. Ab rollouts and dynamic planks are anti-extension moves used by players to develop the core stability needed to protect what? Did you follow that? Do you want it again?
No, I got it.
Okay, to protect what? Is it neck, spine, hip mobility, or knees?
I think hip mobility.
It was spine.
Oh, okay.
It was spine. I'll give you one more chance. If you get 2 out of 3, you leave with glory.
All right.
Developing foot
I
speed.
didn't know your spine was dependent on your core. Learn something new every day.
Developing foot speed and quickness is important for running backs and receivers. What portable tool can be used to improve this?
Oh, boy.
Is it a squat rack, a foam roller, an agility ladder, or a medicine ball?
What was the question? Sorry.
Developing foot speed and quickness is important for running backs and receivers. And you think an agility ladder is the tool that can be used to improve this? I'm going to click it. Correct.
There we go.
You leave with glory.
There we go.
2 out of 3 ain't bad, as Mr. Meatloaf says.
I'll take it.
So Taylor qualifies.
He needs to change that to tofu loaf if he wants to get involved with Health IQ, I'm pretty sure.
To see if you qualify for lower rates on your life insurance, get your free quote today at healthiq.com/TSS. Or if you call Health IQ, mention the promo code TSS when you talk to an agent. Thank you to Health IQ for sponsoring today's episode.
Indeed. I feel good knowing that I have yet to fail a quiz, but I'm going to go ahead and knock on wood now. So thank you to Health IQ.
I honestly think, so this is not part of the ad, I genuinely just think that you do have a healthy lifestyle. Right? You play a lot of soccer, you do some running, all that kind of stuff. You're looking for more wood to knock on?
I'm just looking at the various empty soda cans
There's
I have around my desk.
There's a bottle of water next to you.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
I'm not sure the energy drink qualifies. But you have an active lifestyle, let's say that.
I do.
Okay.
I don't have a bag of gummy bears on my desk, that's for sure.
That's for diabetes. We're moving on.
We are.
So the other big game was, in my opinion, the game I thought we would be leading with until Liverpool-Tottenham happened, was Arsenal's 5-1 win over Everton.
Yeah.
And I've got a lot of thumbs in different directions, and most of the ones that point up are for Arsenal. Most of the ones that point down are for Everton's defending. So there's really 2 ways of looking at this that are both the same thing, I think.
And I have a third, because I'm going to say thumbs down to my stupid dogs.
Why?
Stupid dogs.
Tyler.
Because they refused to go on a walk. They would not get out of bed after the Man United game. And only about 1 minute before kickoff of Arsenal-Everton did Large Dog jump off the bed and go to the front door of the house, and I could hear her downstairs ready to go for a walk. So I was like, fine, we'll go for a walk. Went for the walk, came back, 3-0 to Arsenal, and I just looked at them and said, this is your fault.
Large Dog is a clairvoyant Everton fan.
Apparently, I think we've established she's a Newcastle fan. I think previously when she got all sad when they were losing to Chelsea.
So she was like, oh, they play tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't even care, yeah.
So what do you want to do with your thumbs for Arsenal-Everton?
I mean, I want to say thumbs up to Arsenal.
There we go.
I think, or maybe thumbs up to Rihanna. I know she's the one who's been getting all the attention.
Mesut
she shows
Ozil.
up, suddenly things are looking better for Arsenal.
Yeah, she watched Mesut Ozil in the World Cup final and he won, and in this game, and he won.
Yes.
So
I want to say thumbs up instead of giving the credit to Rihanna.
Correlation does not imply causality.
It does not.
For the record, Mesut Ozil and Rihanna.
I do want to say thumbs up to Arsenal fans, because I feel like it has been a bleak couple of weeks. It has maybe not been the most fun right up until the final couple days of the transfer window when they got their players.
Yeah.
And maybe just needed a little bit of a reaction, and they definitely got that reaction in a 5-1 win.
Arsenal fans deserve this, right?
I think so.
Because of a rough couple of weeks.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, should we get to the specifics?
Sure.
Anyone specific you want to give thumbs to? I mean, I can give you the numbers. Aaron Ramsey, hat-trick.
That would be one.
Enric Mkhitaryan, hat-trick of assists. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, a goal on his debut. I mean, take your pick from those.
I would say an offside goal, but still a goal nonetheless.
So actually, I've got thumbs up to Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang for being so determined to score on his debut.
Yep.
He'll even sort of bend the rules and break the law to do it.
Yes.
and somehow get away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think with that said, I think you probably have to start with Aaron Ramsey getting those goals, but those goals come from a lot of really good movement off the ball for Arsenal, and I felt like this game was sort of like maybe will be my thesis statement in my argument that I think Mkhitaryan is going to be a massively important player for Arsenal to have a settled, creative attacking player who wants to be there and has something to prove, and is very, very capable of playing at the top level of world soccer. I think he kind of showed all the reasons why Arsenal fans should be optimistic coming out of this game.
So let's get into this tactically for a second then. So Everton set themselves up in a sort of 3-4-3, I would call it, which sometimes became a 5-4-1 when defending, right? And that Sam Allardyce essentially said, this is what Swansea did against Arsenal, and it worked. So that's what, I sent my guys out there to do.
And I know that you love him. I just want to say, I really do believe that there's a chance that he was like, do what Swansea did.
No, he wouldn't have done that. But here's the problem, right, as I saw it, is that Everton did that, but they left too much space between each line, right? So there was like a back five and then a four in midfield and a big gap in between, or there was a back three and then, five in midfield, and there was just this huge gap between the two lines because I feel like they're just not used to playing it. And Henrik Mkhitaryan was the guy that exploited that space.
Yeah.
He absolutely saw those gaps and exploited it. I think the best example is the Aubameyang goal.
Agreed.
He really sees that space, goes into it. You see Morgan Schneiderlin, one of the central midfielders, say to the defenders, hey, come mark him, step out. No one does. So then he goes, but he's too late. Mkhitaryan gets the ball, slips through Aubameyang. He absolutely exploited the space. The first goal is maybe the best example of him knowing how to pick holes in that Everton defence.
Yeah.
This is where Aaron Ramsey cleverly makes a run. Someone goes with him. I think it's Mangala, maybe. Then Aaron Ramsey vacates that space. His marker goes with him. Mkhitaryan's like, oh, I know what to do when there's no players around. I put me in that space and I get the ball and then I square it for an assist and Aaron Ramsey gets the opening goal of the game after 8 minutes.
And if you want evidence that maybe there's a pre-existing relationship between Mkhitaryan and Aubameyang, I would say maybe this goal is that. Because
is it Aubameyang that chips it? It is.
5 Everton players, I think, try to close down Aubameyang, who does that one time, kind of no look, kind of reverse, across himself ball into the path of Mkhitaryan. It's a really good ball from Aubameyang to set up Mkhitaryan for the assist.
Isn't that kind of what makes the space as well? Is way too many Everton defenders sort of get drawn towards Aubameyang like they're metal and he's a magnet, and as soon as they're iron filings and he's a magnet, and as soon as they're all close, he does that chip and Mkhitaryan's away.
Yes, and so to go back to my point about Sam Allardyce, I was joking before, but I do think this is representative of what happens when you change your tactics a little bit. You bring in a player like Mangala who maybe
Everton debut, right?
Yes, and has been playing intermittently for City. I think played in the League Cup in early January.
I think we looked it up. It was January 9th was the last time he played professional soccer.
But that also wasn't in a back three. And so to suddenly be in a back three, I felt like this game was very representative of players can pick up a lot, but unless you're doing it week in and week out, you have those moments where Schneiderlin is pointing, you need to go here, or somebody doesn't slide out, or somebody doesn't pick up, and you can do all the basics right. But when you're playing against a team like Arsenal, who have that confidence back, who have that technical ability, obviously, and kind of know how they're playing, they're going to exploit those little inconsistencies to the tune of 5 goals. And it could have been way more. So way more goals.
Should we lay into Everton's defence? I want to give a blanket thumbs down to Ashley Williams, to Mangala, and to Michael Keane, because they all made all kinds of individual mistakes. I mean, take your pick, right?
I want to single out Michael Keane, which is exactly what Sam Allardyce did, since he was the one to be subbed off at halftime.
But switch to a back four.
And I want to say it's a credit to you for coming up with a theory on the fly. When we were talking a while back about Burnley and how Burnley have this very regimented defensive system.
Oh no, I read that New York Times article by Robbie Smith.
Right, but I think your point was maybe that's why we've seen Michael Keane struggle a little bit, because when you come out of this very regimented, here's what you do, you have to do this, you have to do that, and you put that player into a looser structure where, never mind, we're going to try this now, never mind, do this, they might not be able to pick up on it as fast. Now, Michael Keane may end up being a world-class defender, and he may be amazing, but in this game, you saw some of those inconsistencies where he wasn't sure when he was supposed to step out wide, when he was supposed to stay central. Sometimes he would be too aggressive in the step. I think he conceded a foul inside the first minute, trying to aggressively step forward and win a ball. Then after that, he backed off, and it just felt like he was so out of it to the point where it's the Koscielny goal. He is literally touching Koscielny when the corner comes in, and then he just lets go and just stands there. He doesn't really challenge the ball. He's not trying to cut it out of the near post or anything like that. He just ends up kind of hopping around, uncertain of what to do, and then very sheepishly walks away when he realizes, oh, that's my guy who scored.
And the same for Mangala, who has Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Mangala kind of stands there looking at where the ball's coming from, and Aubameyang just does a very easy sneak around the backside. And if Koscielny hadn't had that diving header, it's an easy tap in for Aubameyang's first goal for Arsenal as well, right? One of them was definitely scoring. Koscielny just got there first.
Yes. Yeah. And so I understand why Big Sam tried to switch it up a little bit. Maybe he thought Wenger wouldn't see that coming. Maybe he thought his players could adapt fast enough or would just have a point to prove. And instead, Arsenal found it very easygoing. And as I said, like, it was 4-0 at halftime, but it really could have been 6 or 7. Arsenal got a little bit relaxed in the final 5 to 10 minutes of the first half, where they were sort of doing the Arsenal pass, look for the beautiful goal. Not being critical there, it was just that's the space that they were being given, and if they'd taken a few more of those chances, we might have had an 8-0 result here.
And apologies to Everton fans,
excuse me.
But at the start of the show, I mentioned that we'd be criticising an Everton defender for having his arm in the air and keeping it there. It was Michael Keane.
Yep.
So that Aubameyang offside goal, again, yes, he is offside, but also I've got sympathy for the AR because Everton's backline was so wibbly-wobbly. Keane was stepping, Mangala was dropping, then vice versa. They were crossing paths all the time.
Wibbly-wobbly indeed, man.
It was really hard to tell who was coming through. But what happens is Aubameyang is through, is offside. Keane's kind of alongside him. And instead of putting pressure on him or trying to shepherd him away from goal or making any play on the ball, Keane just looks at the AR and puts his arm in the air and doesn't move. Doesn't move. You may as well, even if you fully in your heart believe it's offside and you're correct, you still got to try and tackle him.
Yeah, because I don't think he's going to be able to make a play on this successfully. I don't think he's going to be able to block the shot or cut it out from rolling across the line.
Right, but every bit of pressure helps.
That's the thing. But if you make Aubameyang have to take an extra half second to think, that's a harder angle. He's closer to the goal.
Maybe he doesn't pull off the world's smoothest chip, which is what he did in the end.
Yes, and so I'm with you that you can't do that, and you can't just sit there waiting and hope that the referee lets you off the hook.
Yep. All right. Anything else from the Premier League? I've got a couple more. I'm sure you do too.
I do, actually, and I'll keep it in line. I'm going to go to Man United 2, Huddersfield 0. I'm going to say thumbs down to Huddersfield for whatever they were doing defensively, because they obviously did the resolute defending, try to not necessarily park the bus, but try to frustrate. But one thing that I found really surprising, and this is something the commentators kept talking about, is that Huddersfield were playing a really aggressively high line on all set pieces. Mm-hmm. So if Man United would get a free kick from 40 yards out or 35 yards out, that wall was 10 yards away, but then so too was the line of Huddersfield. Wow, so they were constantly not lining up on the 18, as you often do, but trying to play as high of a line as possible, which can be a good tactic if you've maybe noticed on film that Man United's players tend to try to cheat. Alexis Sanchez, we've talked about previously, he sits 5 yards offside and waits for that line to come towards him. He did that in this game. The issue was that they would stop and just put their hands in the air, and sometimes they were right. They felt aggrieved one time when I think it was Smalling wasn't called offside. His header went wide, but he was onside. It's just that Huddersfield kept that high line. He ran from deep and timed that run perfectly. And you can't do that. You can't then try to do a risky defensive system and put your hands in the air. Yeah. That was a thumbs down for me.
The other problem for me with that is the reason people use the 18-yard line isn't just because magically 18 yards from goal is the best place to have a line.
Because you have a line.
It's because there's a white line painted on the floor and it's very easy to keep everybody, even at the very professional level, it's easy to keep a straight line when you've got a straight line to stand on.
Yes. And it's especially complicated if you're not doing that when the other team figures it out. And forgive me, I forget who pointed this out on Twitter. It was not scuffed. I would have remembered that. But what United started to do was they had no run-up. So it would be a standing still free kick because that doesn't give you the time to sort of know the free kick's coming and prepare yourself. They would just do a step and take.
Just a player standing over the ball ready to swing it in a moment.
Exactly.
Notice.
So then that catches them off guard even more because now there's space in behind for players to run on.
All right, I've got some much simpler thumbs for this game. Thumbs up to Romelu Lukaku, inventor of the thumbs up, thumbs down, gestures, not in human history, but for our purposes, for his finish for the first goal. That is a lovely left-footed finish on the swivel.
And I think he, as the commentator said in the game, was pretty frustrated throughout. He didn't get a lot of good service. He didn't get a lot of balls into feet where he could kind of combine with people. It tended to be a lot of direct play with nobody around him or running onto balls into space. So to still have that sharpness. Now, a couple minutes later, he did, I think, shoot wide or head wide when he shouldn't have.
Yeah,
but
it's fine. I'm still Team Romelu. I really think he's a really great player.
I am too. People like to hate on him, but I thought it was a really good finish and a really smart run to the near post.
What about thumbs up to Jose Mourinho for benching Pogba in just the right way? He just gave him enough of a nudge to say, like, hey, you got to do a bit more defending, but also I'm not going to like David Luiz you and send you to the stands forever. You're going to be back in the second half of this. Was it McTominay he started instead? So I didn't watch the Man United Tottenham game from last week. I didn't watch the whole thing. I saw highlights. My understanding is that Pogba did not do a great job of being sort of in a deep lying two midfield system with Matic and Pogba, and that this was kind of Mourinho wagging his finger.
Yeah, I think he didn't do a lot of the defensive work that he was tasked with, and he sort of switched off at times,
Yep.
which caused obvious problems for Man United.
Yeah.
So I think, yes, this was a reminder that there are other young players who we
Yep.
haven't yet sold and then brought back who could start and do the job. And you did see him stay much more positionally disciplined when
Yep.
he came on in the second half. I think Jose Mourinho got a little bit lucky that United were able to get that first goal, because you never want to have that situation where you're like, look, we're going to prove that we can play without you and other people will do that role. And then 65 minutes into a game have to be like, okay, can you go in and get the win now, please? Guy that we said we didn't have to have play.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And actually, the Alexis Sanchez penalty, which I also want to talk about, doesn't it? It's earned by a Pogba great long diagonal ball, but after, it's kind of like he did both. He did some very simple, like just passing and moving, doing it very simple and easy. I know really it was about defensive positioning as opposed to midfield flashness, right? But he keeps moving the ball around, and then eventually he picks his head up, sees this run, plays a perfect ball, finds Juan Mata, who lays it off to Sanchez, who gets fouled.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the type of thing he does. It was also really great to just see that moment. I think if I had to choose between like Roy Keane and Paul Pogba as to who I would want to be tackled by, I think it would be Roy Keane, just because at least it's probably going to be dirty, and then you know that you're going to get the card. Paul Pogba, as soon as he came on, did that just like, nope, the ball will not leave my foot, but you will go flying away from me.
Yeah.
I forget who it was who he just knocked off the ball while dribbling, but it was that like, oh right, he's got that skill set too. He's real good.
That's one of my favourite things about him. When he's in full flow, it's like he's got the skills and he's got the ability to just hold you at a distance, like you're his little brother. You know what I mean? Just hold you at arm's length. Thumbs up to Alexis Sanchez for making his first goal for Man United, technically from open play.
Sure. Yeah.
He planned it all along.
Yeah, I did. The alert came through. If I hadn't been watching live, I might have had a heart attack, because the alert came through and it said Alexis Sanchez missed penalty, but that came through 5 minutes after it had already happened. So I was calm with that one. I know what's going to happen here.
So if you haven't seen this, he it's not a great taken
Not at
penalty,
all.
right?
It's a bad
It's
penalty.
saved back to Sanchez's feet, and then he very cleverly puts it sort of it's not that complicated to figure out, but he puts it away from where the keeper has dived, so he can just roll it into the far corner. And technically, the score sheet will just say Alexis Sanchez.
Yep.
The minute, no letter P anywhere.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes. It was probably not the way he envisioned scoring his first goal for Manchester United. Then again, Chicharito's first goal for Manchester United was off of his own face.
That's true.
So there are worse ways to have your debut.
Well,
Debut goal, that is.
I've got one more for the Premier League.
Sure.
I want to give a thumbs up to Sofiane Boufal.
Okay.
Have you seen this?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so Southampton won, I believe, 3-2 against West Brom, which is a big win for them. It lifts them clear of the relegation zone. There was a free kick late in the game to make it 3-1. Boufal, who is kind of like Southampton's, he wants to be their star, right? He wants to like do the flash things. He is determined that he's taking this free kick. James Ward-Prowse says, no, I want to take it. Then Jack Stevens comes up, he's the captain, sort of takes the ball off of Boufal, gives it to Ward-Prowse. Boufal has a little bit of a sulk. Ward-Prowse steps up, does that clever like Kellyn Acosta type free kick, if you remember from the Gold Cup, where he just hit it low and in the corner, no fanciness on it, he just banged it in the corner. Ward-Prowse runs off celebrating. First guy over there to celebrate so enthusiastically, he tackles Ward-Prowse to the floor while grinning, is Sofiane Boufal.
I might be wrong here, and you can absolutely say I am. I like to think that I've rubbed off on you
Oh,
in this
absolutely.
a little bit, that you've tracked the who celebrates and how hard they celebrate.
Absolutely.
That is one of my favorite things to see.
I really, really have. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I really loved it because there was no sulking, not even for half a second after the goal goes in. He's like, yeah, James Ward-Prowse, I love
awesome.
you. It was great.
Speaking of that, I really loved Trent Alexander-Arnold, who it means a lot to be playing for Liverpool, to get that like last minute, what they thought was going to be the game winner. He went insane to celebrate that goal, and that made me happy too. My final Premier League thing is a sympathetic thumbs up to Swansea City. They drew 1-1 with Newcastle. They are still outside of the relegation zone, I think on goal difference. But they lost Leroy Fair to a ruptured Achilles and Wilfred Boney to a torn ACL. They will be without them for the remainder of the season.
That's rough.
For a club battling relegation, that will probably not make things easier.
Have you seen the points for relegation?
What do you mean?
There's
just like how close it all is?
Yeah, I think all the way up to like 11th, there's a million teams. That math doesn't work out. On I think 24 points. You're looking at your laptop like you are looking at the table.
I have it right in front of me. Watford are in 11th. They have 27 points. Huddersfield are 19th. They have 24 points.
And there's a load of teams on 24 points, right?
Yes.
All the way up and down.
You've got 3 on 24, 1 on 25, 1 on 26, and then 4 on 27.
How about
West
that?
Brom, bottom of the table, which
I
is
know.
not a thing I expected to say at the beginning of the season.
Wolves and West Brom are right next to each other in the table for the first time time
That's well said, dude.
in a while. But I would like West Brom to stay up so that we can play them next year.
Would you, or do you want to be the only team from the Midlands?
No, I want to play West Brom.
Haha, we are the champions.
It's just been so long, I want to play West Brom.
Right.
There's a big game we haven't mentioned. I want to say, not a thumbs up or a thumbs down, but just a big hug for Raheem Sterling.
Oh, boy.
Have you seen this?
Yeah, the miss? Yes.
Yeah, so it finished Burnley 1, Man City 1. It was 1-0 Man City for a good while after Danilo's shot from distance. But Sterling had a couple chances, one of which was it really was a tap-in. He was at the far post. I think what he was trying to do was fake like he's going back across goal, but then maybe open his hips up a bit, or open his foot up, his left foot, and just slot it into the side netting to his left, right? But instead, he just miskicks it.
Or just hit the ball is the other option.
Yeah, that's what he should have done. But I'm trying to explain how it happened, essentially. Yeah. But what really got me was the way that after he did it, he fell to the floor, right? And not in like I've been fouled kind of way, just in an I can't believe this has happened kind of way. And then when Burnley equalised, right? Oh, I've forgotten it's an Icelandic player, right? It's Gudmundsson. Gudmundsson, yeah. So equalises for Burnley. All the focus I saw afterwards was on that Raheem Sterling miss, which is so harsh. Yep. And Sterling is a guy who's definitely coming for way more criticism than he's deserved for England performances and this and that. I thought it was really harsh to focus so much of that on Raheem Sterling.
Yeah. And I would say, to your point about him throwing himself to the ground, it wasn't a, like, this will look good on camera sort of frustration, because he almost throws himself into a player to the point where I was like, that could have been a card if he had hit and made contact.
I think it was a so devastated my legs have turned to jelly type, almost fainting type moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's also
not actual fainting, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, but maybe he's also aware that he's going to get a word from Pep Guardiola about that one, almost certainly. Yeah.
But it's also, the narrative is interesting that it used to be Man City kept winning with late Raheem Sterling goals. So if you really believe in the narrative, which I sometimes do and sometimes don't, I feel like you're more of a believer than I am, that this is a part of Man City shifting. Just not that it's Sterling's fault, but the story of him missing is like sort of a symptom of a bigger thing that's happening.
I mean, and you've got to wonder how much pressure they're under now that they're only 13 points clear at the top of the table.
They must be biting their nails.
Oh my God.
Actually, worth remembering, now I've said that.
I thought that was fake. I really thought it was closer than that now, forgetting that United lost midweek, so that makes that gap expand all the more.
And worth pointing out, Burnley are doing really well. So a draw at Burnley is actually not that bad.
They're 7th right now, so yeah, they're doing just fine.
And they also, I want to say thumbs up, I think Burnley might have figured out a way to attack Manchester City. We've talked about their defending stuff in the past, right, where they have a system to make all the shots you take very difficult. I think they made a mistake by thinking Danilo's shot was more difficult than he thought it was. But they also, I think the way they attacked Man City was just to serve diagonal balls into the box and run onto the end of them. And most of them were unsuccessful, but that's what the goal is in the end. Loughton to Gudmundsson, I believe we settled on. It was just this constant serve diagonal in, because then you haven't committed too many men forwards. If they break on you, from where you've served it, you've still got quite a lot of men back. So it's a way of getting a ball in the box without charging too many men forward and getting counter-attacked.
Sean Dyche for England?
I mean, maybe.
Yeah?
Maybe.
All right, I'm good with that. Sean Dyche for USA?
We could do a lot worse.
Yeah, we certainly could.
Let's put it that way. I have nothing else for the Premier League.
I have nothing else for the Premier League either.
I have another quiz for you, though.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, boy.
So this is just a one-question quiz. Today's sponsor...
Oh, wait, did I get it right?
You did not. Well, you did, but that wasn't the question. Awaydaysfootball.com is today's sponsor. They're a small independent soccer clothing brand based out of Boston.
True.
They're running a special.
I'm just assuming everything is the quiz.
They're running a special where if you spend $50 or more at awaydaysfootball.com, you'll be entered to win the official World Cup match ball. It's an Adidas Telstar worth $165. So I've actually got two questions for you. The Adidas Telstar made its debut at a World Cup remember, it used to be a World Cup ball, is my point. When was it first used at a World Cup?
1986?
1974.
Okay, not even close.
1974 World Cup, they used the Adidas Telstar.
All right.
The Telstar is named after an actual satellite. I believe I showed you a picture of it earlier. It really resembles this satellite that was sent up in 1962. It was also first used in 1962. What was the Telstar satellite used for?
Oh, boy. I mean, I would assume telecommunications?
But can you be more specific?
No, I cannot.
It was used for the first transatlantic television broadcast.
Oh, okay.
Where they beamed beamed live feed to both sides of the Atlantic.
I believe I just got that wrong straight up because I said telecommunications, and I'm pretty sure TV broadcast is not. So thank you for asking me to clarify further what would have been an already wrong answer.
It was more like a second chance. I thought you're doing fine today.
I don't think I want to be friends with you anymore.
So awaydaysfootball.com.
I was just waiting for a Death Star question because it looks exactly like the Death Star.
George Lucas, not as imaginative as we think, right? He changed half of one word and basically just put the same thing up
there.
there.
Make lasers come out of it.
Make it bigger, put some lasers on it. Billionaires. Disney will buy this one.
Certainly what he
Disney
did.
will buy this one.
I mean, I think Boba Fett's ship came from like a street light or a hamburger or something like that. Like he was pulling stuff from wherever it was around. So you do imagine that there were some people like kicking a soccer ball around. That he's like, that's my sinister weapon.
It's a form of genius.
It looks like a small moon to me. And then from there they went.
That's no moon. So Away Days Football, it's an independent soccer clothing brand based in Boston. They do the mystery kits, which is where I think it's $25. You get sent a mystery jersey. You don't know what it's going to be. It could be from anywhere. A lot of people have taken us up, or taken Away Days Football up on this deal. They want us to let you know there are 20 new clubs added to the mystery kit. The mystery kit just got more mysterious.
I thought it was really controversial of them to start doing the invisible kit where it's just an empty box. I didn't see that one coming.
The Emperor's New Kit.
Yeah, exactly. You put it on, you feel great, it's exactly how you want it to look. Other people might look at you a little bit curious, but that's because they don't know what a soccer jersey looks like. That's all, you're fine.
Away Days also do their own branded clothing, right? Some really great T-shirts, hoodies, beanies. They're all there at awaydaysfootball.com. And once again, if you spend $50 or more, you'll be entered into the draw for the $165 World Cup match ball, the Adidas Telstar. I keep going Adidas or Adidas. I'm not quite sure.
Whatever you want, buddy.
Go. Whatever you do, you'll get 15% off using the discount code TSS at awaydaysfootball.com. That's TSS, 15% off at awaydaysfootball.com. Thank you to Away Days for sponsoring today's show.
And the invisible kit thing was a joke. They will definitely send you something. Don't worry.
That's a great scam someone should run, though.
Great is a word. I feel like you would have been a great snake oil salesman, Daryl. Back to thumbs up, thumbs down. I've got a few more to get
let's
to.
Let's go overseas.
All right.
From England.
To Germany? Mm-hmm. All right. I think we have the same ones. So,
do we?
I mean, I'm going to lead
with... Is it Batsman?
I'm going with Aaron Johansson first.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, all right.
For a player who I think we thought was maybe done, at least with Werder Bremen, to then see him getting a couple minutes here and there. We saw him make like a 1 minute substitute game, and we're like, oh, okay, maybe they're trying to.
Oh, that's nice.
I thought like maybe they were trying to get some attention on him to sell him or get a loan, and instead he is integral this weekend with a beautiful. Does he get the assist, or is it the assist to the assist?
It's the assist
difficult because
to
the goal
assist.
is confusing.
So it's a late winner for Werder Bremen.
That's right. Okay.
It's Aaron Johansson, chips it over the defence. It's really deft, like really high, but a good bit of backspin on it. Chip for Eggestein to run through onto. Eggestein gets there, puts it through the keeper's legs. Then there's a bit of a scramble, and then the final finish comes from a gentleman named Junazovic gets the actual goal. So I don't think this will actually show up in the stats anywhere for Johansson, but it definitely shows up in the highlights.
Yeah, because even if you haven't seen it, it's certainly a chip. That's the right description. But a chip can sometimes be like, oh, it's from 40 yards out. He chipped it in. Like it's one of those where it's Johansson, then there's the defenders like maybe 6 or 7 yards away, and it's that like 30 yards in the air ball, like a
up
moon
and down
ball
really fast.
that drops, but gives the player enough time to streak through and get on the end of it.
I've actually got thumbs down.
Maybe 20 yards in the air, but
I've got thumbs down to Arjo for encouraging more of these lob passes. Yeah. I really dislike these lob passes. I think they mostly end in people getting injured because they take too long and then the ball kind of sits where it lands. And even like Eggestein and the keeper, I can't remember the keeper's name, Fairman, I believe, end up in kind of a collision. I think these balls are dangerous balls in the physical danger kind of way.
Why you gotta ruin all the fun, huh?
It looked very nice, but there'll be kids doing this around the United States and someone getting hurt this week.
What are you, Reverend Lovejoy's wife? You going to scream, think of the children? Get out of here.
Won't somebody
Get
please
out of
think
here.
of the children?
Get out of here. Don't hate on Aaron Johansson.
Welcome back, Aaron Johansson. Could see him for the US in March.
This is a recurring theme, listeners, because Daryl Grove also attempted to vigorously denounced Christian Pulisic as being the worst soccer player on earth this weekend for losing the ball.
Let's talk about Borussia Dortmund's 3-2 win over FC Köln.
Also, Daryl didn't do that. But he did discuss with me the fact that Pulisic maybe coughs up the ball. But first, we should talk about the positives. So thumbs up to Christian Pulisic for getting an assist.
Yep, he got the assist for Michy Batshuayi's second goal, I believe, for Borussia Dortmund in this game. Batshuayi, first game on loan from Chelsea, scored 2, assisted the third, a late Dortmund winner against FC Köln. Yeah, the Pulisic assist. Let's talk about that first before we talk about Batshuayi. It's a flick on. If you know that, it was a long ball. Pulisic gets a really good header on it, flicks it on. I think Batshuayi kind of fights for it. The ball pops loose, and then Pulisic does a thing where he extends his leg like Inspector Gadget. Did you get Inspector Gadget here? And then does a poke through for Batshuayi for an assist. It's not pretty, but it's very, very effective.
Yeah, but it's a quick reaction, and it's like the ability to read exactly what needs to be done in the moment. To go back to it for a minute, that's why Wanyama's goal was so
for Spurs
beautiful to me, was because it's the technical ability in a half second to realize, like, this is exactly how I have to hit it. This is the only way I can hit that to put it on frame. And you go back to Pulisic's assist, and it's certainly not this like pretty ball head eyes, he nutmegs a player to spring somebody through, but it's definitely just knowing this is how I can get that ball forward, and I have to get it right now, so I will make that happen, and that's what he did.
Fair enough. But I would say that so Batshuayi scores earlier in the game. Really nice, like in the box finish, kind of an Aubameyang position type finish, right? The equaliser for Cologne comes from Christian Pulisic, essentially in the attack, loses the ball, Cologne break, Dortmund concede. You talked me into this being not as bad as it at first appears, right? Because to me it looked like he just dribbled into the middle of three players when he had options to pass, but you persuaded me otherwise.
Well, yeah, because I think first off, it's that he's the one who wins the ball back. He reads it and intercepts the pass, drives at the defense, and I think he's trying to eventually play Batshuayi through, but when Batshuayi makes his run, Pulisic has it on the wrong foot, so he can't hit the ball the way he wants. By the time he's able to get himself in position to play that ball, Batshuayi is offside. So he probably should have played it faster to make that run happen.
Batshuayi's run was timed correctly, I think, if Pulisic had been able to shift feet faster. Yeah.
But because he couldn't at that point, Batshuayi's off. Now he's put himself in a position where he set himself up to make that pass. Now he can't, so he has to cut back again. So he's kind of killed that momentum by twice cutting, and I think that's when he eventually gets tackled and loses the ball.
Fair.
But it wasn't quite as like selfish as I'm just going to take these guys on and make something happen. It was sort of wrong place, wrong time leads to wrong time.
I read it the selfish way the first time. So Pulisic does get subbed off for Jadon Sancho, which is a very not even bittersweet. I'm just happy either way, right? Yeah. Pulisic played, this 17-year-old kid who's gone to Germany gets to play. I'm really excited for him.
Baby seven babies.
Sancho, it's 2-2 towards the end. Sancho is involved in Dortmund's eventual winner.
That I don't like.
He sort of, he has a good little quick turn in his own defensive third, springs the pass. I think it's eventually Batshuayi lays it on to Schürrle, who was excellent, by the way. He's part of the front three. Schürrle, Batshuayi, Christian Pulisic. Schürrle with a beautiful strike to make it 3-2.
Dortmund are like my favorite team for having like exclusively 17-year-olds and then like, oh yeah, that guy. Like, not that Andreas Schürrle has reached that level, but it is that like, right, oh yeah, Schürrle's there.
Schürrle, Reus, Götze, all super talented German players with a history of injuries. They definitely seem to have collected, I would argue, too many of those players because it disrupts their season when they're not all available all the time. Is that fair? Yeah. But thumbs up to Batshuayi for a great debut, right? 2 goals, 1 assist. Then you got Aubameyang with a goal for Arsenal and kind of an assist for that first one, that nice chip pass. Pressure is on Olivier Giroud when he plays for Chelsea on Monday. He kind of has to score to be not the sort of the bad part of the triangle.
And he also has to score. This isn't really thumbs up or thumbs down, but he said in the interview about his move to Chelsea
Giroud?
that he spoke with Didier Deschamps. He didn't tell me to join Chelsea, but he did tell me to change clubs. So I think maybe
Deschamps being the France manager.
Yeah, I think maybe that was a, hey, if you want to be still in consideration, you got to do some stuff. So now he's got to do even more stuff because everybody else is scoring goals.
Speaking of Englishmen abroad, I want to say thumbs up to Ademola Lookman, who I think I said on Twitter, I believe he won the weekend.
All right.
So Ademola Lookman is an Everton player. He was an England U20 player, part of that U20 World Cup winning squad. He was all about getting a loan move this January. Sam Allardyce was like, perfect, we've got you all lined up for Derby County. And Ademola Lookman was like, how about I go to RB Leipzig?
It's a medium pass. It's a medium pass
instead, And so the Sam Allardyce quote is, it's one of the most unusual situations I've been in where we've got some deals for him, but he was adamant he chose Germany. I think Allardyce couldn't imagine the concept of an English youngster wanting to go overseas.
Remember that time Sam Allardyce got fired? Like that wasn't unusual to him at all, when there was like a spy TV crew who picked him up saying weird things. Like, that wasn't unusual to him. Sam, come on. Dream a little bigger, man. Dream a little bigger.
Lookman went to Leipzig. Came off the bench in, I believe, so I went back and watched his 10 minutes. He looked so nervous for the first 7 of his 10 minutes. He looked like, you know that game where you see someone who's making their debut and they're really eager to please, but they're too eager, so they're always going towards the ball. They look a bit nervous when they get it. And I was really thinking, I knew he'd scored because I was watching it after the fact, but I really did think, Ademola, come on, get some confidence. And then right at the end, you see him receive a pass from Naby Keita, which is kind of ironic because they'll be rivals on the opposite sides of the Merseyside derby.
Maybe that's why he's been sent there.
Next season.
Get some minutes, but also if you can't hurt him in training.
Spy on Keita and maybe foul him. And then just accelerates on the diagonal and cuts it back with a shot down into the far corner. Scores the winner for RB Leipzig.
Decent. That's a decent way to start it.
Really exciting. So thumbs up to Ademola Lookman for making the most of Britain's EU membership while he still can.
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
Freedom of movement.
Well done, Daryl. My final thumbs up.
Before anyone emails, I feel like I get emails anytime I mention Brexit. There probably will be some sort of like deal in place in the future. But I'm just saying, freedom of movement will not be as easy as it was for Ademola Lookman in the past week.
Mm-hmm. Final thing, I'm just going to leave that one for you. Final thing that I have is thumbs up to Suso, who you might not know, but he was playing for Milan this weekend, 1-1 draw with Udinese. He might have hit an even better shot from distance than any of the other shots from distance we've already discussed. But it's like turns in traffic about like 35 yards out and just rips it. And it's the type that hits the underside of the bar and goes straight down, which makes it look all the prettier.
The Jeff Hurst special.
Mm-hmm. It was lovely.
Since we're doing random ones, I've got a thumbs up to Gio Lo Celso for PSG. Have you seen this? It's in PSG's 3-0 win over Lille. He does that great thing where you drive as if you're about to take a really aggressive shot, and then you just chip the keeper very delicately, like Philippe Albert for Newcastle back in the day.
Oof.
Yeah. Saw it on Reddit. Very, very nice.
So pretty. So pretty.
So pretty.
Alrighty. So that's it for me in terms of thumbs, but we still have one more segment to get to.
We certainly do. It's the Total Soccer Show Skater Network, and we're going to lead with some Americans.
I believe it is all Americans. I might be
Is that right?
Yes.
But I've got some Americans that we didn't get scouting reports on, but I happen to see great stuff that they did over the weekend. If you're scouting the players I'm about to mention, please don't stop scouting them. Let us know, because it seems like they're on the verge of doing some really great things. First up, Keaton Parks for Benfica B had what I would call a Zlatan assist for Benfica B. It's a ball, comes through, and he kind of does the back heel, backwards karate kick, but so delicate and deft as he puts the through ball through. Benfica B get a goal out.
It's like outside. It's like outside of the foot towards the heel.
Yes.
So it's like he's able to cushion it a little bit. And puts it right in the path.
Absolutely, a name worth remembering if you're a US men's national team fan. Keaton Parks at Benfica, really, really great looking player.
To be fair, if you're watching him, he's difficult to spot on the field because he, I believe, is 9 feet tall and is as blonde as you can be.
I followed him for the weekend. He was on the bench for the senior Benfica team, but did not get off that bench.
Oh, well.
Also making waves, Konrad De La Fuente, who's a teenager at Barcelona. Is it Juvenal? It's a Barcelona youth team. Barcelona Juvenal won something like 7-1 or 7-0.
That sounds right.
Have you seen the goal he got where he sort of Matrix style spins in midair to hit a volley? But he also was involved apparently in 6 of the 7 goals that Barcelona Juvenal scored. He's also a member of the US under-18 team. Konrad De La Fuente, keep your eyes on him.
Konrad with a K.
Konrad with a K. I've got some more MLS news,
some
MLS preseason news. Shaft Brewer Jr., who was let go by RB Leipzig, was apparently on trial for LAFC this weekend.
That happened.
So he was a trialist in the MLS preseason for LAFC. He's worth watching. And then the holy grail for me of youth development in American soccer, FC Dallas are hashtag playing their kids in preseason. So Paxton Pomykal, who we're really excited about, attacking midfielder, started, and Reggie Cannon, the right back, both started for FC Dallas in preseason. Fingers crossed that this is a trend that continues when the actual season starts.
I think FC Dallas would agree with you, since they have about $900,000 in Gam and Tam saved up.
Is that right?
We'll see what they end up doing with that.
But that worries me. Are they going to go out and spend it on a bunch of more seasoned players, or are they just going to hold it and then let Paxton Pomykal and Reggie Cannon and Brian Reynolds and all these great young players, let them have a go at it?
I feel like it might be both. I feel like you might see them see what the young kids can do, and then, as we know from Major League Soccer, you can maybe make some moves in the summer to put yourself in a better position to make the playoffs in the second half of the season.
Fair enough. All right, so that was the Darryl Grove Scouting Network updates. If you scout those players, please stay on top of it. Let us know what they do next, because I feel like there's good stuff happening with all 5 of the players I just mentioned.
All right, but we do have some actual scouting reports to get to. Darryl Grove, why don't you start us off?
Me again? Okay, so Zach Lippert is scouting Alejandro Guido, the 23-year-old American midfielder for Club Tijuana. So Alejandro Guido started and captained Los Cholos in a 3-2 friendly loss to Toronto FC. Zach, who is scouting Guido, says, "Please US Soccer, Don't let him switch to Mexico to play with Jonah Gonzalez.
I don't know who that second guy is. Rebecca Sitter, scouting Jalen Howell, the 18-year-old American midfielder for Real Colorado. Howell was named to the U20 CONCACAF team of the tournament and helped the U.S. secure qualification to the U20 Women's World Cup in France this fall. In the semifinal game against Haiti, she opened the scoring in the 75th minute and converted her penalty during the resulting shootout. This U.S. victory secured qualification. They then lost in the final on penalties to Mexico, where Howell played solidly but did not get on the score sheet or take any of the penalties.
If you want to hear more about Jalen Howell, the Top Draw Soccer I recorded with Travis last week, separate podcast that we do, the Top Draw Soccer Show, find it in iTunes. We did like 20 minutes all about the U20 women's national team at the CONCACAF Championship. I was sort of slightly not pleased with the tactics, let's put it that way.
That's a good tease. I like that.
Yeah. Wes Kaufman is scouting Ayo Akinyola, part of the U17 World Cup team. He's a 17-year-old American forward for Toronto FC. Wes says Ayo Akinyola recently signed a homegrown player contract with TFC. I thought he already had one. I guess this is a big development then. And is expected to compete for playing time on the first team this year. Greg Vanny described Ayo Akinyola as a, quote, hybrid forward, unquote, who can play on the wing or up top.
Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing that's good because that means he can play a number of different positions based on what Toronto need, but can also be that bad thing where it's like, oh, he can do anything, so we won't start him, but we'll see where he fits in later on.
It means he doesn't use as much gas as well.
Also that. That's good stuff. Mazagin Wagner scouting Mayo Ali, the 25-year-old American defender. Mayo has gone through a second transfer window, still without a club, so it looks like his boots are up for good. Mazagin will keep an eye on it in case something changes, but would appreciate a new scoutee.
I think we might have our first Scouting Network retirement in Mayo Ali. We may have said this in the last transfer window as well. This is more like confirmation that maybe Mayo Ali is no longer a pro.
I mean, we have a couple other players who are playing like semi-pro now, so I think he's not in like rarefied air, Mayo Ali.
But respect to Ali, because didn't he go to Scandinavia and then to the Faroe Islands, which is, I think, still part of Scandinavia, but a more remote part of Scandinavia. Put it that way.
I think.
So at least Mayo Ali had an adventure. Mazakine, thank you. Via email, I'll get you set up with a new scoutie. How about that?
That sounds good.
Brendan Massa is scouting Marlon Fossey, 19-year-old American right-back for Fulham, a guy we should all be excited about, Marlon Fossey. Brendan says, Fossey has made 3 appearances since returning from a groin injury that wiped out his U20 World Cup back in May. I remember it well. Most recently, he went the full 90 in a 1-0 loss to Blackburn Rovers in the Premier League 2 and appears to have regained his starting right-back spot. Marlon Fossey, I'm excited for the future.
He of the big hair, if you don't remember.
Yes, he does.
If you don't remember him. Richie Garcia scouting Emerson Heinemann, 21-year-old American midfielder for Bournemouth. You haven't heard from me, says Richie, because I have been busy sacrificing chickens to the soccer gods and trying out spells like Accio Transferum.
Is that Harry Potter?
It is indeed. Let's bring me a transfer, basically. Hopefully, Emerson will get a move in the MLS window, and if he does, Richie deserves 5% of the transfer fee for his work.
We'll get that set up. Unfortunately, MLS do not pay those fees, you'll recall.
Oh. So 5% of 0?
Speak to the MLS.
Right.
Speak to the MLS Players Association about solidarity payments. Jonas Lehmann-Karp is scouting Matt Miazga, the 22-year-old American defender for Vitesse. Another one, Matt Miazga, will be in the March US men's national team squad if things go correctly. As mentioned on last week's TSS, Matt Miazga somehow avoided suspension after the cameras caught him grabbing Heron Vane's Denzel Dumfries in the Royal Cruyffs.
Such a good term. That
proved to be a good thing for Vitesse as Miazga scored the opening goal with a beautiful header in the 6th minute of Vitesse's 2-0 win over Groningen. I've seen this goal. I saw a tweet that said Matt Miazga goal, and I definitely thought in my head, I'll sit down and watch this header. I was not disappointed.
Oh, yeah?
It was a header.
There you go. Oh, I see it. Final report comes from Patrick Keeler, scouting Anthony Robinson, the 20-year-old American, not at all English, left back on loan at Bolton from Everton. Jedi, which apparently is his real nickname.
And his Twitter handle is something Jedi.
I did not know that. All right, so he's a dork. Started for Bolton.
Makes me like him more.
I know. And before anyone takes issue with that, let's all remember that Daryl and I did an entire show dedicated to which Star Wars players would play which soccer position.
True.
Jedi, his real nickname, started for Bolton and had the game-winning assist in a 1-0 win over Bristol.
Have you seen this?
No.
Okay, so it's a good pass from Jedi to Sammy Amiobi, but then
Which also sounds like a Jedi name, I have to say.
That's right. Then Sammy Amiobi does a lot of skillful work to make this goal happen.
Help me, Sammy Amiobi. You're my only hope. I'm just saying, it fits.
I feel like we should end the show right now. That's the perfect note to end it on. But thank you to Zach, Rebecca, Wes, Mazakine, Brendan, Richie, Jonas, and Patrick for today's scouting reports.
I think if we were one of those shows that titles the episode after a line from the show, that would probably be the line.
Help me, Sammy Amiobi.
Yeah.
Thank you to everybody who has joined the Scouting Network recently. If you'd like to join, it's totalsoccershow.com/join. We're always happy to have new members to support the Total Soccer Show.
Indeed we are, because I always like knowing what's going on with the youth of today.
The youth of today. Because we're getting old, right? We're not as cool as we used to be.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Taylor Rockwell.
Right, hip kids? I'm one of you.
Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
I think you're definitely a millennial, and I'm one of those people that probably isn't.
Oh.
That sound fair?
So are you Gen X?
I think I'm that weird thing where some people say I'm in and some people say I'm out. I'm not Gen X. I'm too old for Gen X. I'm too young for Gen X, too old to be millennial, and I'm kind of in this weird... I'm in the kind of space...
Almost like this is all arbitrary and stupid.
It is like that. But I would say I'm in the weird space that Henrik Mkhitaryan could easily operate
There we go. Mkhitaryan space, obviously.
There we go. I'm Generation Mick.
As with every Total Soccer show, last 1 minute, off the rails.
The best. It's always the best part. Listeners, thank you for listening. We'll be back this week with lots more US soccer presidential race coverage.